We are now officially recording this program. Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Gillick, and I am the program director at the Northwest chapter of the American Parkinson Disease Association, APDA. And we are very pleased you are here for the third installment in our Beyond Medication series. So we wanted to do a series of workshops that gave you practical tools and techniques to hopefully better your life with Parkinson's disease. So this is the third one we've done. The first one was about nutritional strategies. The second one was hands-on helpful caregiving. And now you are here for this one, which is finessing fine motor skills. All of these programs are 4 weeks, and they have all been recorded and are posted on our YouTube video or our YouTube channel. So you can watch, go back and revisit them. You can share them with people so that they're not a secret for you. So we are super pleased to welcome Heidi Huynh back. Heidi is an occupational therapist with Ascend Therapy Services. She does occupational therapy in home, kind of in south of Seattle, Pierce County, in that arena. So she actually comes to people's homes and works with individuals. And she was here for our hands-on helpful caregiving, and she and I plotted to provide this program for you as well. We are recording this. You may keep your camera on or off, totally up to you. I am going to mute everybody so that we cut down on background noise. You may use the chat function located at the bottom of your screen at any time to pose a question. Heidi can see that as well as I can, and some people are already using it to say hello. So please feel free to use that chat function, and we will get started. So I'm going to spotlight Miss Heidi here so you can see her at a spotlight. Hello, Heidi. And Heidi is not going to be using PowerPoints today. This is all participatory. So I hope you're ready to participate. And then Heidi's going to be putting together a handout that I will send to you post-event. I will send an email that will give you any resources that Heidi wants to share and information about just anything we discussed today, as well as a link to the recording. So without further ado, Heidi, you may take it away.
All right, thank you. And thank you all for having me and coming and joining along with us. So as Jen said, my name is Heidi. I'm an occupational therapist, and I've been working for the past 7-ish years, working with aging adults in a variety of settings, independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing in their own homes. So just focus on helping people to maximize independence and safety so they can continue to do the things that they love to do. So,
you okay? Okay.
Jen, do you see
Heidi,
that's,
I'm gonna go ahead and mute everybody. You're gonna have to unmute yourself, okay?
Okay.
So I'm gonna mute everybody, but definitely use the chat for any conversations.
Okay, cool. You can hear me though. All right. And Jen, someone said in the chat they have no audio. I don't know if you can try to problem solve that with them too.
I'm about to chat with them.
Okay.
I think they exited, which was my suggestion. Is always my suggestion. If something goes weird, exit and come back in.
Perfect. Okay, so we are here. Why is this not scrolling? Okay, here we are. All right, so aside from occupational therapy, just a little bit about me. I have 3 kids. One turned 1 yesterday, which is wild. One is in her last day of her first year of preschool today, and my oldest daughter is 7, just turned 7 a little bit ago. So we're running around with them, playing games and having fun. We like to do things outside and explore and go to sporting events and just do fun things. And that's why I love OT, is because we help people get through the daily things so that they have the time and energy to do the fun things. So I know there's a lot of people on here today, which is awesome. I can see many of you. I put it in a grid so I can see more people, but I probably can't see anybody. So like Jen said, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. If you need any clarifications for what I'm showing you, or what we're talking about, put it in the chat and let me know and we can talk about it, or if there's anything specific you need. So a big piece of OT and of independence is and safety. So OT, we're all about independence and safety. And a big part of that is fine motor and our hands and our fine motor control, the small movements that we do. So gross motor is like big movements. Fine motor is the more precise movements. And that's what we're here to talk about these next few weeks. And there's a variety of reasons that fine motor skills kind of become an issue with daily tasks and situations. One is if people have arthritis, it gets hard. One is just hand weakness, and that makes it troublesome. Tremors is another thing that makes fine motor difficult. And so those are all things that we can address. And two big components of fine motor is strength and dexterity. So coordination and the little movements, but we need to have the strength in our hands to be able to have that dexterity and coordination. So those are the two kind of main pieces. And today we're going to mainly talk about and work on our strength. So we're going to work alongside each other during this series. The first couple weeks, I'm not going to have a PowerPoint like Jen said, but we will pass along a handout. So the exercises and stretches we do today, I'll put in a handout for you and we'll get that sent out if you want to follow along. And like she said, this is being recorded, so you can always go back on the YouTube channel and watch it again and follow along if you want to remember how to do any of the exercises. So this week we are talking about stretching and strengthening. And when we have difficulty with fine motor, some of those things can lead to a hard time gripping objects and items, difficulty with legibility of writing. Sometimes it can be hard to feed yourself because we have to use those fine motor skills to hold the utensils to feed ourselves. Doing other fine motor tasks. I didn't touch my screen and it all disappeared. Sorry, but we're back. Or dropping items, those can all be things that happen because we're having difficulty with our fine motor control. And we don't often think about strengthening our hands. We use them all the time. We use them every day. But a lot of times when we think of exercise, we think of big muscle exercises, that gross motor exercise that we talked about. But those small muscle movements are so important to focus on and to think about as well. So just think about it for a minute. Have you ever carried, so I'm not a big fan of multiple trips to and from the car and the house with like grocery bags. I like to pile up as many grocery bags as I can and carry it all inside. But sometimes we have some pretty heavy grocery bags and we're just holding it with our fingers, like with our hand. It's not even all the way on my arm. And you think like these little muscles right here is holding that whole weight of the grocery bag. And so there's so much that our hand can do. When I was learning about the hand in OT school, I was so fascinated because everything is just so connected and so strong for such small muscles. So it's very interesting to think about and look about, and it's just really cool. But we often don't pay attention to it until there's a problem. And then we're like, wait, my hands aren't doing what I want them to. Now there's a problem. So we want to strengthen our hands, but we don't want to wear them out because they are small muscles that we don't exercise often. We want to be careful when we do start exercising them that we don't just fatigue our hands and then they're too tired to do anything the rest of the day. So today we're going to alternate exercises with stretches. So we'll start with some stretches, do some exercises, then we'll kind of let our hands rest a little bit, do some more stretches, do some more exercises, and kind of go back and forth. When you're at home, and I know that you're all going to want to do these that we're going to do today again and again and again, just kind of think about that. So we're going to be here for almost an hour today, but we're talking, we're learning, we're stretching, and we're strengthening. At home, maybe do it a few minutes at a time. Spread these exercises out throughout the day, or have, one set time you do it, but just keep in mind to remember to not overdo it all at once. So first we're going to, we're going to look at grip strength and pinch strength. So grip strength is like our whole hand. We're gripping something, we're holding onto something. Pinch strength is is our pinch, right? We're going to go pick something up, or if we're going to turn a key, there's kind of that key pinch strength where we, this way or this way. So this way, these are all pinches. This is gripping. So we're going to talk about both of those today. And so we're going to do today about 10 to 15 repetitions of each of these exercises. And we're going to hold each repetition for like 2 or 3 seconds and then slowly relax it. So I know in the, when you first registered and then got reminder emails, it mentioned some equipment, some TheraPutty and some exercise stretchy bands that was recommended to purchase for this course. If you don't have it, that's fine. You don't need it, but that's what I'm using today. So I'm going to show you how I use it. And if you have those items, go ahead and do it alongside with me. If you don't, then I'll show you some other ways you can do these exercises, or take a look and we can, do them together next time. So first we're going to do some stretching before we get into the equipment, and then we'll grab that. So, oh my goodness, my screen keeps turning black when I don't touch it. I need to figure out how to make it not do that next time. So we're going to start off with, some people call this the prayer stretch, but when you put your hands together, so we're all going to do this together. Put your hands together, and then we're going to bring our arms and our elbows up, but keeping our hands together. So our hands are straight and flat, but we're kind of stretching those wrists. Good, you all look great. Then we're going to come back down, and we'll do it again. We'll stretch those arms out to the side, keeping our hands straight and together. And we'll do this just a few more times. Come out to the sides, push those hands together a little bit, really keeping those fingers and thumbs straight. And we'll go ahead and do one more. Good. Good. Okay. So that's that one. Another one is to kind of the same thing with the extension, but really working on, rather than just extending our wrists, we want to focus on these fingers. So you can have one hand here and take your other hand and just kind of pull those fingers back a little bit and hold it for a minute. And then we can go to the other side and take those fingers and use our other hand to push those fingers back, just to strengthen or stretch out that hand in a way that we don't often think to do. Good, and then we're going to do the other side again. And then let's go ahead and grab our thumbs a little bit and just kind of stretch them out. So I'm taking my hand this way and my other hand's kind of coming around the side. My thumb is grabbing my other thumb and kind of just pushing it out. Just looks like a butterfly, a little bird, that motion, and then use your thumb to kind of push your other thumb out. And then we'll turn it, or if that's confusing, you can just kind of take your hand and pull that thumb out a little bit. But I like to kind of push it away, from your hand all the way down low. Okay. So that's kind of extending. Now we want to do the opposite. We're going to make a fist and just kind of squeeze that fist down and then go ahead and release. And if you want to focus on the stretching aspect of it, we can do one at a time. So we can use one hand to kind of push our hand into that fist, make sure it gets all the way in there, and then bring it back out. And then we'll take the other hand, put it on top, push it down. This is what the other side of my hand looks like, and then we'll bring it out. This side, push it into flexion, hold that thumb in there, and release. And kind of hold it in a fist. Good. Okay. So another way you could do these exercises and stretches, if your hands do have kind of a hard time doing some of those things. I'm going to turn my computer a little bit so you can see the table, because we're going to be doing a lot here today. But you can also have your hand flat on the table and kind of push your hand down flat if it needs a little bit of help, and kind of bring your hand, your elbow up as your hand goes down. So this is similar to that that prayer stretch we did before, but just kind of keeping the hand flat and bringing your elbow up. Or just kind of pushing the hand down if you have a hard time stretching out those fingers. Okay, so we're going to start off with these stretchy exercise bands. I don't know if any of you were able to purchase these. They look kind of like a, I don't know, a thing with all these little circles. And so this is we can do a few different exercises with it, but we're going to work on our extension. So there's kind of four, I don't know if you can see mine with this one. If you have these, there's kind of four circles around the top and one on the bottom. This one goes for your thumb. So you stick your thumb in that loop, and then we're going to put each finger in one of these holes. And there are different, depending on which pack you got, but the one that I have has 3 different colors. So there's green, orange, and blue. Green is the easiest, blue is the middle one, and orange is actually pretty hard. But also I'm glad we're doing this course together, because even though I teach fine motor, my fine motor strength is not the best. So we're going to be strengthening together. So if you have your fingers in this little claw thing, if you do have these, go ahead and show me in the camera. Let me see that you have it. Awesome. And those of you that don't worry, I will show you in just a minute some things that you can do alongside with us. So with this, we're going to just stretch our hand out, our fingers, each and every one of them, and then slowly bring it back in. So I like to say that once you get as fully stretched as you can, hold it for about 2 to 3 seconds and slowly come back in. We don't want to go out too fast. And once we're out, we don't want to just let it, fall back into place. We want to really take our time, because that's what's going to stretch out those muscles. And you just want to spread your fingers out as far apart from each other in each direction as you can. So if you don't have one of these, you can kind of pinch your fingers together and like a little, put them all together, and you can hold your fingers with your other fingers, if that makes sense, just to kind of provide some resistance and push. So those of you who have the exercise band, you keep doing that with this, okay? I want you to do 10, I don't know if you've been counting, a total of between 10 and 15, and we're going to stretch out nice and slow and come back together. I'm going to take this off. You guys keep going with it, and I'm going to show the rest of you. So if you kind of put your fingers together like this, I'm going to bring my other hand and kind of grab onto each one. So they're holding them together. And then with this hand, I'm going to try to do that same thing. I'm going to bring my hands apart from each other, but this hand is going to hold it closed. So I'm kind of resisting myself. So it's not really going to be an opening and a closing, but still putting that pressure is going to strengthen those muscles. So I have one hand around the other one, and I'm going to resist, push out with one, and then slowly come back with the other. And I don't know about you guys, but I can already feel my muscles working. That's why we don't want to overdo it or wear these out. So make sure we switch sides. So once you've done about 10 of these with this side, let's switch this little guy over to your other hand. If you don't have this, just kind of pinch this hand together now, bring this hand around it, kind of so you have each finger, on top of the other one, but then bring them together. And then we're going to try to open up the left hand while the right hand is keeping it closed. And we'll count 1, 2, 3, and relax. And do it again. 1, 2, 3, and relax. So I'll pop this back on this side. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, and relax. And you can see my hands kind of shaking when they get out there. You just want to get out as far as you can and then relax. Good, you guys are doing great. And then once you've done about 10 of those, we're going to take a rest and do some more stretching. And also, so 10 is just, you know, a number that I'm picking to put in there because it's usually not too much, but not too little. But if you start feeling it and you're getting kind of sore before that, it's okay to stop. If you're going, I would say if you're going and you know you feel nothing, go ahead and do some more. But we have a lot of exercises we're doing today, so I don't want to overdo it today. But if you're kind of starting to feel it, go ahead and stop and rest. You want when you're picking which color, by the way, if you're using these things, you want something that's challenging but doable. If you know if it's too hard to move at all, maybe use an easier one. But if you're like stretching it and it's really easy, then we'll pick something that's harder. Because like I said, even if the hand isn't really moving, if you know you're pinching it and holding it down, but you're pushing against it, that resistance is going to be strengthening those muscles. So that's it for these finger ones for right now. But if you did get these in the same pack I did, then they also came with these circle band things. So if you have these, go ahead and grab them out. Like I said, that orange one is really tough. I'm going to use the green one because I lost my blue one. If you don't have one of these, you can just kind of grab anything. If you have like a squeeze ball, you can grab a squeeze ball. If you have a extra sock laying around, you can roll up a couple socks and kind of make that into a little ball, just something that you can squeeze. You can even, I mean, socks are probably the easiest if you don't have a little exercise squeeze ball. Or a ring, or if you have anything that's kind of squishy, that'll work. Oh, is that a toilet squeeze ball? Is it a little squeezy? Nice. That'll work. Whatever you can kind of squeeze and put resistance on. Perfect. So I'm going to use this one. And there's a few ways that we can squeeze and use something that we are squeezing to work. You can also get like a washcloth, you know, a small towel and kind of roll that up. And we'll be doing some other twisting things with it too, or kind of fold it into a little square. Just something that you're okay, or like a really small pillow, anything of the sort. So I'm going to go ahead and use these. And I'll just kind of, I'm gonna sit up so you can see my hands doing it closely. But first we're going to squeeze with our whole hand. So if you have the ring or, you know, the sock or the toilet or whatever you have, stick it in kind of the palm of your hand, and we're going to use our whole hand to just kind of grip it. And you can see it, you know, doesn't move a ton. I'm holding my fingers out just so you can see what it's doing, but I do want you for this one to keep your fingers in. So we're going to go ahead and do 7 to 10 squeezes. And again, you hold it for a few seconds and then open it up. Hold it for a few seconds and open it up. Squeeze and hold and open up that hand. And we're really using the whole hand for these. So we'll do 2 more. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release. Good. Then we're going to switch hands. You're not going to want to hold your hand this way. I'm just doing that so you can see what it looks like, but I guess you can kind of see from this side too. And same thing, we're going to squeeze and release. Squeeze, hold, release. Squeeze, hold, release. Try to get the whole hand involved. Keep it kind of in that palm area. Squeeze, hold, release. And squeeze, hold, release. So if you're feeling soreness in your forearm, that's because everything is connected. There are a lot of muscles that go from our fingertips all the way down, and they connect somewhere in your forearm. They're not, you know, they're not just in the finger or just in the hand. They all extend and come together. So if you're kind of feeling that, that's why. We did not do stretches between those last ones. So take a rest for a second, kind of shake your hands out. That's another thing we can do to kind of rest and relax. Just shake the hands out side to side, like you're trying to flip off water or something. You can put them on the table and just kind of hold them down, keep them flat. We can put our hands together, do that prayer pose a little bit. We can hold them down when we did the fist flexion a little bit. And we're just giving them a chance to relax and not push against themselves. You can also kind of massage your hands a little bit. I do that especially for my thumb a lot when it gets sore, or kind of go to the other side and use your, it's kind of exercise for one hand while it's a massage for the other hand, right? And just kind of use my thumb to rub that out and let it loosen up a little bit. Okay, so we did the whole hand squeezing. Now we're gonna, this one's gonna be harder with these rings. If you have a sock or a ball or whatever else you have, you know, same thing. Instead of putting it in your palm, I want you to put it around your fingertips and your thumb. And then we're gonna squeeze, hold, release. So you won't see the item squeeze as far because obviously our fingers are not as strong as our whole hand. But they're still working. They're still using that muscle. We really want to try to get all 5 of them. I know my thumb is working a lot harder than my pinky when I do this just because of the way it goes around here. But we want to try to squeeze all 5 of those fingers like you're trying to bring them together. But the sock or the ring is going to be helping resist that. Okay, then we're going to go switch to the other hand. Same thing. Hold it with your fingertips and we're going to squeeze together and relax. Squeeze together and relax. Squeeze together and relax. And as another thing to think about is even if you don't have anything with you, just doing the motion is going to be better than not doing anything, right? So even if there's nothing to squeeze, you can still kind of, you know, do the motion. And same as before, if you don't have this or anything else, you can use your hand. So you can stick your palm here, make a fist, put your other fingers around it, just using those fingertips, and kind of squeeze your hand and relax. Like I said, even though it doesn't go anywhere, your fingers are pushing, so they're still working. So that would look from this side this way. You just make this, you know, one fist. So if I wanted to do the whole grip, we could grab the whole thing and squeeze with the whole hand. Or if we wanted the fingertips, we could just place the fingertips around our fist. I kind of like putting them on my other knuckles and squeeze and release. Okay, we're done with that one. Shake out your hands again. Good. So another thing we can do with this or with the sock or with the squeeze ball, whatever you have, is some of our pinches. So we just did kind of a whole hand pinch, but this is called a key pinch when your thumb kind of goes up against the side of your finger. And we use this a lot to hold things it's called a key pinch because that's how we hold the key when we go and unlock the door, right? We kind of stick it in there and do that. So we want to strengthen this also. It's kind of hard with something this big, but same thing, you can place it instead of around your fingertips, place it against the side of your pointer finger and then the tip of your thumb. So I kind of put it here and then grab my thumb. I'm just going to kind of show you every angle of how I'm holding it. This is probably the best one to kind of show. So it's not really under my fingertip, it's against the side of my finger there. And then we're going to squeeze together. So this one is really exercising this thumb muscle here that goes into the hand as you squeeze the ring or the sock into your finger. So if you didn't have anything, you know, you could just do it against your own finger. It's just going to work a little bit differently than if you have a tool. So with this side, put it against the side of my finger and my thumb and squeeze it together. Squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. We'll do one more. Squeeze and relax. Okay, so one thing that you can do with these rings that's going to be harder with a squeeze ball or a sock, but still possible, is kind of twisting and warping it. So I would take, you know, the key pinch we just did, but instead of around the whole ring, around one side of it. And then I'm going to do that same thing with my other hand, but I'm actually going, no, I'm going to keep it this way. So thumbs are on one side, fingers are on the other side. And then we're just going to kind of, one hand turns to the forward while the other turns back, and then vice versa. You could also kind of switch your hand so one thumb is on one side and the other's on the other, but then you can't go the other way as much. So you just want to kind of twist back and forth, pushing the ring going one way and another way, just a different way to kind of strengthen different muscles. I don't know, my hands are kind of sweaty, so they're slipping, so it's kind of hard, but it's doable. If you had a washcloth or something, or the sock, you know, you can kind of just twist to get those motions. It's just going to be different than if you had the ring. But that's another one way to do that. Okay, we're going to put the rings down. Shake out your hands for me. I got to dry mine off a little bit. Okay, go ahead and we can, you know, put them on the table and kind of rub them a little bit. I'm using one hand to kind of go in circles on top of my other hand that's laying flat, just to help it stretch out, relax. We can do the, you know, the flexion stretch, pushing your hands down. And then we can also do the other one, bringing our fingertips back. Okay. Now we're going to use some Therapy. So I don't know if any of you have this. Again, the one I have has different colors, so there's different strengths. I was telling Jen, I wonder how strong I'm feeling today. I chose the soft one, not extra soft, but I was feeling kind of soft. Especially as we do so many exercises, we don't want it to be too hard because, like I said, we don't want to wear our hands out. So if you have Therapy, go ahead and pull it out. If you have Play-Doh laying around the house, you could use that. If you have anything, any kind of dough, something that's going to, you know, be resistant, but this kind of Therapy. If you do have putty, can you hold it up just so I can see how many people are going to be using the putty versus not? Okay. So if you do have the putty, go ahead. You can, a note about the putty, it does get stuck on things. So if you have rings or whatnot, just be careful of that. I don't know if you want to take them off or leave them on, and just be careful about it. Before we start the putty exercises, I'm gonna look through the chat real quick. So that depends. It says, do you recommend getting the multiple strength putty or just one? And if so, which? It really depends on the person. The multiple one is kind of nice if you haven't used it, just because then if you don't know which one is best for you, you have a variety. Also, you can start with the easy one, and as you get stronger from doing these exercises, you can kind of move ahead and do the other ones. If I were just going to get putty and try it with someone and I didn't know them very well, the red one is usually the one that I start with. So yellow is extra soft, and this is for, you know, the Therapy brand. I don't know. No, this is Flint Rehab, but different brands are a little bit different, but generally, like, tan is the softest, yellow is extra soft, red is soft, green is medium, blue is hard, and then if they have black or purple, that's even harder. So I typically have people start with red just because it's not like super soft, but it's like a good strength for me. And with putty, you can kind of adjust things. If it's too tough, you can make it thinner and use a little bit less of it. If it's too easy, you can kind of put more together. But I feel like it's a little easier to make easier than harder, if that makes sense, by using less of it. So long answer to your question. If you want to go ahead and get the variety pack, I think that's great because then you have a variety. But if you don't want to, I would start with red and kind of see how that goes. Yes, I will send follow-up PDFs of the exercises. Tips during the season series for those of us that's still working / heavy typers. I don't want to lose my typing skills, but have voice to text too. Curious what's a good balance. That's a great question too. So the question about balance, I'm just going to answer this real quick before we do this, is a good one in kind of all scenarios. I kind of tell people, a lot of people have that question with like sit to stand chairs, that when you sit in a chair and then you can kind of raise it up to help you stand up, because those are super helpful for people who have a hard time getting up, and it gives them mobility so that they can move around. But if someone is able to get up on their own, I don't want them just using that feature all the time and not using their strength to get up, because then they're just going to lose the strength that they have. So I always say to kind of try what you can do first. So in the sense of the chair, like try to get yourself up. And if you can't, then, use the little mechanical lift to get you up. In terms of typing, I would type as much as you can, but if it's going to fatigue your hand to the point where it's hard to eat later or brush your teeth because your hands are tired, then we can use the voice to text. Or if something is going to take you 20 minutes to type, but 5 minutes to use voice to text, if you have 20 minutes, go ahead and do it and practice it and use those fine motor skills. But if you're in a hurry and you have less time, then go ahead and use the voice to text and use that time doing other things that you want to do to help keep yourself doing what you want to do. So that's kind of how I talk about balance, is always try the thing that's difficult first. And then when it either takes too long or takes up time out of your day in other areas, or fatigues you too much, then go ahead and do it the easier way. So that's my thought. Okay, so for the putty, first if you have a table in front of you, we're gonna use a table and we're gonna roll it back and forth into like a long snake. So the thing about putty, if you leave it like hanging off a table, it will like stretch down and eventually fall all the way to the floor. It takes, so like if I put it in a ball and I leave it right here and I leave for an hour and I come back, it's going to be like flat on the table. So it will expand. So just beware of that. It might get on your clothes. If putty is somewhere you don't want it and it's hard to like peel off, if you get another piece of putty and kind of stick it to it, it'll probably come off more easily, just to let you know those things. So if you have putty or Play-Doh or dough, we're going to go ahead and put it on the table and use both hands if you can. If it's too small, start with one hand and then we'll switch, and we're just going to roll back and forth. So we're going to keep your hand flat and we're going to go all the way from your palm up to your fingertips, and we're just going to go back and forth. And as your piece starts to get longer, then we can start to kind of spread our fingers apart as we're rolling, and it takes up more space. So spread your fingers apart to reach the whole edges of the putty and just keep going back and forth and kind of push down as you're doing it. That's where the strengthening is coming in. We're pushing down as we're rolling the putty. And then when it gets longer, we can add our other hand in and kind of go back and forth. And we want to make a big, long snake. So we're going to keep rolling back and forth. So if you don't have putty, you can also get your sock or ball or other thing that's kind of round that you can roll. Even if it's not going to like lengthen out like a snake, you can use your hand muscles to kind of roll it. And I'm going back and forth with my whole arm, but I'm really pushing down just with my hands. I'm trying not to push down all the way up from my shoulders, because I do want to use that fine motor, those hand strength as I go along. Okay, then I can kind of, the middle is getting thicker, so do the middle, do the end. So now I have a nice long tube. And what we're going to do with this tube is work on our pinching strength. So we're going to use our thumb and our pointer finger. So if you don't have putty, you can grab your sock or your towel and just pinch the sock or the towel. If you have your putty, it kind of gives us a guide. So I'm going to start one hand at one side and one hand at the other side. And I'm just going to pinch them together. And with the putty, if it's really tough, if you just slowly pinch together, it'll mold to you. So just if you try to go hard and fast, it's going to be really hard. But if you just kind of slowly move your fingers in together, it'll work. So I'm going to bring this up a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. This is just, you know, the table. My hand is the table. Put your finger and your thumb on either side, and I'm just gonna squeeze them together till they come together. And then I'm gonna move right next to it and squeeze it again. Then I'll move right next to it and squeeze it again. And so you can go on at the same time on the opposite side. Same thing. Squeeze these together, squeeze together, and it kind of molds together. So I'm going to put it back out on my table so you can see me just using both hands. And we're going to go in. As we're doing this, I'm going to keep reading. Someone said the biggest challenge is keeping food on the fork due to tremors. Suggestions and alternatives appreciated. We're definitely going to get to that, Jerry, in our next couple of sessions. We're going to talk about tools to help and some other things to help specifically with activities. So I'm going to save that question until we get to it, just so I have more time to answer it. There's all sorts of things that we can do and try. So sometimes when I am done squeezing this tube all together, now it's kind of flat on one side, I'll just put it down and I'll squeeze it the opposite way, because now it's taller on one side than the other. So I'm just going to pinch together, slide, pinch together, slide, pinch together, slide. Pinch together, slide. Okay. I will say just a quick answer to that question about eating. Sometimes people use wrist weights and it kind of calms the tremors a little bit sometimes. Also, other times people use weighted utensils, so you can get spoons, forks, knives that are heavier, and that might help with the tremors. It depends on how strong the tremors are. There's also adaptive tools and plates to help get it on the fork better, so it keeps it on different types of spoons. So we will talk about that, but that's the best way to go about that. Is we're working on the strength and the dexterity to hopefully help with some of those things, but there's tools and adaptive techniques to help when it gets tough like that. Okay, so now that I have my long snake, I pinched across it. I'm gonna just kind of squeeze it together here and form it back into a ball. So there's two ways we can do this. We can put it on one hand and put our other hand on top and kind of roll in a circle. So this is great because we're working on strength of both hands. The bottom hand is kind of staying flat, and so I'm working my strength to keep it flat while the top is rolling back and forth. I'm mainly staying within my palm area, kind of getting to the bottom of my fingers, but I'm not really using my whole hand, like the length of my fingers. Another way is to put it on the table and use just one hand to roll it back and forth. Same thing, I'm kind of just rolling it around the outside of my palm. And as you push down a little bit as you roll, that's what's strengthening the hand. And then if we're doing it this way, we can switch to the other hand. If there's one hand that's more difficult, use that one first. Don't always go towards the one that's easier, because if it's more difficult, that means that's the one we need to strengthen, and that's the one we want to work on. So we're going to keep going around till we get a nice ball. So now our Therapy is just like a squeeze ball or the sock or the squeezy toilet someone has. And we're going to put it into our palm, kind of like we did with the ring and the other things first. And we're going to squeeze the whole hand together, all those fingers and the thumb at the same time, and just slowly squeeze. And then it'll kind of be shaped like this. I'm going to turn it in my hand. So it was this way. And now I'm going to get it out and kind of turn it so I can squeeze it again. Because after you squeeze it, it'll be a little more like an oval. So we turn it so the long part is between our fingers and our thumb, but we're kind of sticking it in there and squeezing with that whole hand. And then we're going to switch to the other hand, but same thing, just kind of put it in that hand and squeeze with the whole hand. And then I'm going to turn it in my hand. That's working on that fine motor coordination and dexterity, being able to rotate something within your hand. And we're going to squeeze with the whole hand. And squeeze with the whole hand. Okay, I'm going to roll it out again to make it a little more like a circle again. And kind of also just kind of mold it, you know, with our hands at first. And then work on that rolling. And we're going to roll on the table. And roll on the table. Okay, so then we can do the same thing that we've done. So you'll kind of see repetition in these exercises, similar things, but in different ways. Now we're going to do some pinching. So we already did, you know, pinching of just our thumb and our pointer finger. We can do that again. So we can push it here and squeeze all the way down. And then it's kind of like when you make, I don't know, there's certain kind of cookies that you kind of put a thumbprint in, right? That's what we're doing. And then we could do the same thing. We would turn it and do it again. We could also here have it in the ball and do it in that key pinch. So we kind of put it on the side of our hand between our thumb in this position and push down with your thumb. So that's really working on that thumb strength. Turning it and doing the same thing. So it's between my finger, the side of my finger, not the tip of it, and push that thumb into the side. So it's instead of this motion, we're using different muscles with that thumb because instead of the thumb going up, it's going out to the side and in. So they're different muscles there. We can also do this pinch. So just 2 fingers and a thumb. So if you have your ball, you can put 2 fingers on top and your thumb on bottom. And that'll be easier than the 1 finger with the whole ball. You know, we did the 1 finger with the tube, but when you get the whole ball, you can kind of take 2 fingers and a thumb, and that'll be a little bit easier, but also an important one because we use pinch like this too. So I know I'm kind of just winging through these because I want to be able to show you all the different things we're doing, but make sure when you're following along to just be switching hands, 2 fingers and a thumb, and we're going to squeeze and then rotate and squeeze. Okay. I'm going to roll the putty into a ball one more time. Okay, it doesn't need to be perfect though, because we are going to flatten it like a pancake. So this is going to use all sorts of muscles in our hands. We're going to start off by using our palm or the middle of our hand and just pushing down with the whole hand. And that's going to kind of be the initial part. I can rock back and forth a little bit. Make sure to alternate your hands so you're using both of them. You can kind of roll your hand, but I'm not rolling the putty. I'm trying to keep it flat. Then we can kind of knead it. So we'll use the bottom of our palm and kind of push down to make this ball a little flatter. Sometimes I like to flip it over and then keep going. And we're just going to rock the hand back and forth, pushing that putty down to make a pancake. Then once we get to a point, we can kind of use our fingers and use just our fingers to kind of push and pull. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing down and pulling out at the same time. Push down and pull, push down and push down and going to the sides, just to kind of use my fingers here to get this pancake nice and flat. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Let's shake out your hands a little bit. Adaptive devices for knitting. I will look into that. We're going to have one session all about adaptive devices. So I'll put that on my list. I don't know anything off the top of my head other than some things. I'll look into it. Yeah, I'll look into that. Okay, so we have our pancake here. Now we're gonna like pick up the corner and I'm gonna roll it to be back kind of like a snake again, but not too long. We just want it kind of like this. I want to show you how we can do some of those exercises we were doing with the rings, but with the therapy. So if you pinch your fingers together and you want to, stretch them out, but you didn't like the ring ones, or just this is another way to do it, pinch your fingers together and you're going to use this to kind of wrap around your hand. So I'll set it around the top and wrap it around. That looks really funny. So your fingers are all here and it's kind of like a loop around it. And then I kind of pinch it together and I generally hold, one hand just to hold it a little bit, just for a second. And then you're going to extend those fingers. I feel like sometimes the rings do a better job of keeping it consistent pressure because this one does, open up or stretch. But also, if this finger is stronger, it's going to go up higher and the pinky's still going to be able to do whatever it wants to do. So once you have it like that, you can kind of just flatten it and make it again and do the same thing in the other hand. Pinch your fingers together, wrap it around. Sometimes I do like to just kind of squeeze around my hand to really make sure that it gets in there nice and tight. And then we're going to stretch our fingers all apart from each other. Make sure you're doing each and every finger so that they're each getting worked on there. Good. Okay. Another thing to do with this putty is we can put it between our fingers. So we worked on stretching our fingers out, but if we want those muscles to bring our fingers together, we can kind of just stick this putty between our fingers and squeeze our fingers together. And you can see, I mean, it's not moving a ton, but it's going nice and slow. Then we can open it up, stick it between the next two fingers. Mine are shaky. And just squeeze that together. Then we can go in the next one. And this is tough because these are muscles that we definitely don't use a lot. But if we're talking about fine motor and wanting to be able to write, all of these muscles matter. So that is that. Then we can do it with the other hand, kind of stick it in, squeeze together, switch to the other fingers, squeeze together. So someone said they're surprised at how much they do feel the simple exercises. So 100%. And I hope we didn't overdo it. I know I wanted to show you a lot so you have some things to work with. Is icing or heat or both good after exercise routine? A bowl of water or tap. So I think either could be good. Since we've been working with them, heat might kind of relax things, but then if it gets sore later, we can maybe use some ice to kind of cool it back down. Different people have different preferences. I don't have anything specific to do. I do want you to, those of you that were following along and doing this with me, pay attention to how you feel the rest of the day. And like I said, I mean, we just did like 40 minutes of exercises and we were stretching in between, but it's a lot for our hands to handle. So if you feel great, then okay, I can do this many exercises again. If you're like, man, I'm in a lot of pain, or Heidi, my hands are so tired, that was awful. Then next time we know we'll do less exercises, wait some time and do more. I like to, if people spend a lot of time watching TV that actually has commercials these days. Sometimes I like to say to, do exercises during the commercials because it keeps it short, but it's frequent. So we can keep doing, a different hand exercise every time a commercial comes on. It's really up to you guys and how you're feeling. But I think that soaking your hands in either warm or hot water would be just fine. Whatever feels best to you. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised how much I feel it too. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? I'm gonna not hunch down anymore. Sit back up nice and tall. Yeah, any other questions? There are also exercises I mean, pretty much the same exercises we did here, but we can use a TheraBand for, kind of like how with the putty we wrapped around and resisted. We can do some things with a TheraBand. So we might look at that next session a little bit. So if you guys do have stretchy elastic bands, go ahead and bring those next week because we might take a look at some things with that. And then we're going to do some dexterity work. So some of the coordination and techniques and skills that we can use to kind of strengthen that other than just the muscle strengthening. So if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming and joining us and helping me keep my hands strong and reminding me that I need to work my hand strength also. And I do encourage you to try some of these, whether it's with the putty, whether it's with the finger things or the circle things or a sock or a squeeze ball. Do some of these at least a few times before next week so you can let me know how they're going or if you have any questions about them when we're not doing it together. And like I said, I will make a PDF and send that to Jen so she can send it out to you with the post-event email before next Thursday.
Yes, I will put that PDF in an email. I will put a recording of this class so you can rewatch it if you don't remember the exercises and things like that. I also saw in the chat that some folks were curious where to get the tools. I will put that in the post-event email. I hate to send people to Amazon all the time, but Amazon is a really great resource to get TheraPutty and get these bands and things like that. So I will put some links to that in there. I will also I'll also send a reminder out before next week's class. Same time, same Zoom link, just a different, it'll be next Thursday at 10:30. And what are we covering next time, Heidi?
We are going to be covering some fine motor control stuff. So we'll do exercises that aren't so much about strengthening, but about our finger control.
Okay. Finger control. Excellent.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Heidi. Great information today. I was super bummed I forgot to bring my TheraPutty to work today, but next week I will. And please, if you have specific questions for Heidi, you are welcome to email me, or which you can respond to the reminder link that I sent. It'll go to me. And you can pose those questions and I can pass them on to Heidi. So look for an email later this week or early next week. I guess it's Thursday today. So and we will see you next week.
Awesome. And someone said, what will we need for a lot of the things we're going to do next week? We don't need anything. We're just going to use our hands. But if you do have a stretchy elastic band, go ahead and bring that because I'll show you a few more exercises that we can use that for that I didn't have my band today. Thought about it while we were going on just to show another way to do it. And Jen, you can answer this, but I believe people can still join the webinar.
Yeah. I will keep registration open so people can still register and join late. These do build off of one another, but the recordings are available to everybody. So anyone can join at any time. So,
perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everyone. See you next week. Thank you, Heidi. And thank you all for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Have a great one.
Bye.